Share with you tonight are some of those lessons I learned along the way of that 3.5 years, and lessons that I've continued to learn, more lessons I've continued to learn since then. Lessons that from then, being depressed, not having any money coming in, having to borrow money from my father-in-law just so that we could pay our rent, and fast forwarding that from there to a life today that I live on my terms, that in the past 3 months I spent 2 weeks in Thailand, motorcycling the mountains of Thailand. I've been partying in San Diego on the beach with my wife, and spent a week partying in Amsterdam, which is a great city to party in. If you want to party in Europe, Amsterdam is a great city. I have a business now that affords me the luxury to be able to travel when I want, where I want, buy the things that I want, and I'm not restricted by a lot of things that I was restricted by growing up. But what I've learned, I read this quote a long time ago, and it said that a goal without a date is just a dream. A goal without a date is just a dream. So if we reverse engineer that, then a dream with a date is just a goal. A dream with a date is just a goal. And that stuck with me early on, because I was like, well, if I've got these dreams, I've just got to set some dates to them. And what I did early on is I set, okay, here's what I want to do, here's how much I want to make, here's how much I want to sell, here's what I'm going to do. And I set these dates to these dreams, and they were goals, and then all of a sudden those goals weren't hitting, and I wasn't hitting them. And so I started talking to a bunch of other people and started doing a bunch of reading. And one of the topics that I came on, which is the first lesson I'm going to share tonight, is I started to learn how our bodies are actually programmed to give us literally, quite literally, what we want. And they're programmed, there's this thing in our brain called the Reticular Activation System, RAS, R-A-S, Reticular Activation System. And the Reticular Activation System is actually a piece of hardware. It's in your brain, it sits near the pituitary gland, and it regulates conscious thought to unconscious thought. Okay? It regulates what happens subconsciously and filters out to what gets pushed up to your conscious thought. All right, so here's how it works. How many of you in here want to someday own a sports car? You can raise your hand, it's okay. What kind of sports car?
Corvette.
Corvette. You like Corvette? All right, what else? What other kind of sports car? Lamborghini. All right, what other kind of sports cars? Any other? No one else? Okay, Paul, come on. MGB. All right, so we have sports cars that we'd like to own, right? So the Reticular Activation System, I want to someday own a Porsche 911 Turbo. Gunmetal silver, Porsche 911 Turbo, that's what I want to own. It is amazing to me how I can be sitting at a Starbucks, engaged in a conversation, and a Porsche 911 Turbo drives by and my neck about breaks looking at it. And I always see it. And if I'm driving down the highway at 60 miles an hour, I'm driving down the highway and I see a Porsche. It could be this small little glimpse getting off Doherty Ferry and going back, and I will see that Porsche. And I don't know how I see it, but I see that Porsche. How often do you see Corvettes on the road? All the time. How often do you see MGBs on the road? All the time. That's the Reticular Activation System. It's something that we want, and that reticular activation, your subconscious sees everything. It's just deciding what to pop up into your brain throughout the day, right? What's interesting though is that it doesn't know, right? You've got to train it. You have to train it what to look for. And if you train it right, it will pop up different opportunities. And that's the first lesson from a goal planning standpoint, which is why a dream with a date is just a goal. We have to start training. So I write down my goals now, and I read my goals every morning when I get up. And my brain is trained to look for those opportunities to achieve those goals. And what's been amazing to me is that the more that I keep training this reticular activation system, the more I keep training with what I want, the more I see opportunities to get what I want and to get what I'm after. And what I found is that the most people that I talk to them, and I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs. I get a lot of phone calls from entrepreneurs. And they go, Brandon, I'm just really struggling. I'm just really, really, really struggling. I'm like, okay, well, tell me what's going on. Well, I can't get my business. I can't generate what I want. Well, let's talk about that. What do you got to do? Well, I got to get the business to get this much in revenue. Okay, well, how are you going to get that? Well, I don't know. I'm just trying to sell anything I can. And I say, all right, let's back up. If you can set a few specific milestones of what it's going to take to hit that revenue goal, either how many clients at X amount, what types of clients, if you can break it down a little bit, suddenly your brain is going to see opportunities to give you what you want. because you see it, your subconscious sees it all day long. It's just going to push up in your conscious mind and say, hey, this is an opportunity. This is an opportunity of something that you should go after. This is something you should offer. And I see it happen with my clients all the time. I had a client just a few weeks ago. My business partner and I met. And we were talking, and he goes, you know, Brandon, we're probably going to need to get another website started sometime in like late August timeframe. So if you can just start seeing opportunity, if you can look for a website in late August sometime, that'd be great. So suddenly I'm talking to clients, and a client mentioned something they're doing. I'm like, hey, you know what? It's probably about time we rebuild the website. What do you think? And they go, yeah, it probably is about time. It's been a few years since we've had it out. It probably is about time to go for it. And it's like, oh, yeah, it is. It's that easy. It's amazing how if you just train the brain, it sees the opportunities, and then you can decide whether you want to take that opportunity or not. So that's the first lesson. Reticular Activation System. Keep telling the mind what it is you want, and it's amazing how it's going to give it to you. Benjamin Franklin used to give himself a logic problem every night he went to bed. And he'd give himself logic problems because the reticular activation system is also what regulates your sleep. It's also what drives your dreams, all right? Because it can't tell reality versus non-reality. It just sees everything. So Benjamin Franklin, before he'd go to bed, would give himself a logic problem, something he's trying to figure out for an invention. And if he woke up and he didn't have the answer, he'd stick with it, and he'd say the logic problem again the night before he went to bed. And what I read about it was that he would often wake up in the middle of the night with, oh, I got it. And how many times have you thought about something, I got to figure out the solution, and then suddenly you're out running and you see something, it's like, oh, that's it. Or you're in I'm in the shower. For some reason all my bright ideas come in the shower. So I'm just sitting there and I'm not thinking, and all of a sudden, boom, that's where the idea comes from. But we got to train our brain, we got to give it what we want. So first thing, reticular activation system. Second thing I want to give you is a part of training that reticular activation system. I'm going to hand out some note cards here. We're going to play a little exercise here and see how it works. So if you can take some, pass one, pass around. Krista's going to hand some out, and then Katie's going to hand out some pencils. So a big part of training the reticular activation system is being able to write it down. Now, Yale has done studies, Harvard has done studies, and what they've found is that the act of writing a goal down, right, and there are multiple studies out there, the act of writing a goal down increases the odds of you achieving it by anywhere, some studies say as high as 80%, some studies say as high as 45%. So you know how statistics are, it's whatever you want to make them. So we'll just say 45 to 80. Either way, can we just, the research shows that if you write the goal down, there's a uniquely better chance that you're going to achieve that goal, anywhere from 45 to 80%. Okay. So we know that if we write just the act of writing the goal down gives us a better chance of accomplishing it. And that's because we can see it and the brain can better visualize it. So if you've got that index card, what I'd like you to do right now is just draw a box in the middle of it and draw a rectangle. And not a little one, but kind of a rectangle that's maybe a couple inches by an inch deep. A couple inches long across the top by an inch deep in the middle. Just draw a rectangle in the middle of it. If you don't have a pen, can we get some more pencils up here? I don't think we got everybody with pencils. So what I want you to do is just write down 3 to 5 things around the edge of that box. Outside the box, 3 to 5 things around the edge of that box that it would be really cool someday if you were able to accomplish. It'd be really cool someday if you were able to own. It'd be really cool someday so think about things you want, goals, items, accomplishments, things you want outside, and just write them outside that box. It could be how much money you want to make, it could be an item you want to buy, it could be relationships you want to improve. I do this exercise with Adrienne. We do this exercise and she will attest to it. Yes, sir?
Do you outline this in the book?
Yes, this exercise there's a version of this exercise in the book. Yes, it is. It gets a little bit more in depth than what we're doing today because I'm making sure to get it quick. But yeah, this is outlined in the book. So we do this exercise every year and we talk about what are the things that we want. And that's where the inside of the box comes, because about 3 years ago, Adrienne and I were doing this exercise, and for some reason, I love you, honey, but for some reason, Adrienne decided that a purple tub with a purple matching toilet is no longer in fashion. Like, it's no longer in style. I don't know why, but I think perfectly fine a purple throne, which it should be, and a matching purple tub is just fine in a house. But Adrian decided 3 years ago that, hey, that's not going to be in this house anymore. That's something that we want to replace. So that was a goal that she wrote down. And so we identified, okay, what are the things that we have to do in order to accomplish those goals? What are the weekly habits that we can change to get toward that goal? And so what I want you to think about is, if you look around this, outside of this box, what are some weekly things that you could do to move it toward that goal? So for this bathroom, it was a $30,000 bathroom project. We started this 3 years ago. We decided, hey, if each of us put $100 into a bank account a week, that would pay for a $30,000 bathroom remodel. Now, it was 2 bathrooms. It wasn't just one. It was 2, because if you're going to do one, you've got to do the second one, right? So it was 2 bathrooms that were going to get redone, and then we ended up adding on to a roof, which I've learned that's how house projects work once you get the contractors in. So, but we decided it was going to be 30 grand, okay? So 3 years ago, we started each putting away $100 into a bank account and a separate account, and then this year, guess what? We had the 30 grand. Bought the 2 bathrooms, and just in time, because we've got a new baby girl about to be here, and they had to get done before she got here. So boom, it was done. That was our weekly habit. So as you look around the edge of the box, I'm curious, if there's something you want to buy, if there's something you want, what are weekly habits to get to that? Now, weekly habits may not, if you're trying to buy something, may not be, hey, this is how much I want to save. It could be, like at our company, Go Brand Go, in order for us to hit some of our goals, we had to hit certain revenue marks. We had to hit $1 million. We had to hit profitability at a certain margin, right? And we had to specify, okay, what are we working on each week to get there? So for my business partner and I, what we realized a few years ago is that we weren't talking enough. So we were not communicating as the 2 owners of the leadership of the company enough. So we had to set aside 1 hour for strategic planning a week. Before we did that, I will tell you our profitability averaged somewhere in the 5% per year. So that means some years I wasn't getting a paycheck for 6 months. Our profitability today will do $1.82 million this year with a 30% net margin after my paycheck. Profitability has changed a lot because of strategic planning, because of the time that we got allocated. So what I want you to think about in the box is, what can you control, what should happen weekly from a weekly habit standpoint. Just write 1 or 2 things inside that box.